Hello and welcome. With the new game drop, there's an addition to my world that I'm very excited to show you. Now that we have ghasts in the world, I wanted a ghast tower. If I'm going to have a ghast tower, I want an elevator. But if I want an elevator, it needs to have a bit of redstone. So in this one, we get to pick our floor. I could go to the sky, upper caverns, lower caverns, or any other 14 floors. We pick the floor, we get in, we go up, and if we don't like here, we can pick a different floor to go down to. Or maybe we want to pick a floor in between. Let's say surface. As you can see, signaling is pretty quick. And even in the interior, we're not actually taking up as much space as you might think. In fact, the entire redstone fits within a 3x3 area with one block remaining, so that if you want to, you can even carve out a corner. I've had this in my base for a couple of weeks now, ever since the game drop and a little bit before that with the snapshots. I'm being very happy with it. It works quite well, and I'd like to show you how it's made. So, as I said before, the core of it is quite small. We need a bubble vader going up, somewhere to fall down, a wall block with 2 solid blocks either side of it. We'll have some stairs over here to not interfere with the wall block, but separate the water and the drop. And over here we'll have some scaffolding. This is our path up, path down, signal up, and signal down. We're surrounded by blocks. It looks a little bit like this, and this is the tower you saw earlier. And between the floors, this is all you need. But having a way to signal between floors isn't useful if you can't send or receive the signal. So let's look at that next. To send a signal, we're just using a piston with a block, and that block will then go beside the wall and under a bit of scaffold. By doing this, the scaffold will send a signal up because the distance to support will get one shorter, and the wall will send a signal down because it'll change shape. We can see this when we use the signal mechanism. And while the up and the down signal might have different delays, they have the same length, which means we're sending the same signal. From there we just have to choose which signal to send. We're using a book, and all you have to do is on the last page, which will be 15, write last. But other than that, you can put whatever you want on the other pages. This is being read by a comparator in subtract mode, being held off by a torch. And when we press the note block, we're just going to turn that comparator on for 4 ticks, 4 redstone ticks, 8 game ticks. So it can run a fader clock for our piston. So that'll turn the lectern into a signal length instead of a signal strength. So now that we know how to send the signal and receive it and move it up and down floors, we need to interpret it. And this is the most complicated redstone of the entire system. Over here, we have a repeater set to 4 redstone ticks or 8 game ticks. A stone button, which will go for 10 redstone or 20 game ticks. And a wooden button that goes for 15 redstone or 30 game ticks. And we've got these all connected to the same note block observer copper bulb. Over here we have our setting. So this is set to 5, which is half the number of redstone ticks of the signal over here. Over here we have the note block being read into a copper bulb. Copper bulb would normally provide a 15 signal here, except we're subtracting 14 from it. This means the signal will be 1, but being 1, it will then subtract 1 from the 14, taking it to 13, which will then bring it up to 2. So the longer this runs for, the stronger the signal out of this block will get, and the weaker the signal out of this block will get. We then take it into a memory circuit. So we send the signal strength we're reading from the block here, and we use this repeater to clear whatever signal is currently in this memory circuit. Having done that, all we need to do is read it. So we read whether there's any signal at all. So whether this has any redstone signal at all is read over here. And whether the signal is strong enough to turn off this comparator is read over here. And this is where our setting comes in. Because by having a setting of 5, this has to be 5 or higher in order to keep a signal. And if it turns up to 6, it'll turn this signal off. So we can sort of see that. If we go to the lowest floor, we'll see that both bulbs turn off. And if we go to the highest floor, we can see that both bulbs turn on. But if we go to the middle floor, the floor that this is set to, we can see that only one of the bulbs turn on. And this represents saying, stop at this floor if you're falling, which means, send out the slab so that you land on it. But if you're going up, we're not going past it. Don't send out the bubbles. So that means turn on the slab, but don't turn on the bubbles. And then when we go past it, we're turning on both the slabs and the bubbles, as in if you're coming up, you'll go past it. If you're falling, you'd stop here, but you'll probably be caught by a floor above you. And if it's below, don't turn on the bubbles. You won't even get here because there's a floor below you you're going to. And if you're going down, go past it. We're not going to stop you with the slab. So we have two things we need to do with the signal. We now know which floor we want to end up on, but if we're falling, we need to make sure the player stops here. And if we're going up, we need to make sure that they will go past here if they need to go past. To stop a player falling, we're using a slab with water. This gives them something solid to land on, but breaks their fall. It's pretty easily done. We have a repeater on 4 ticks to make sure we don't have an unstable signal. As soon as it's on, we signal this dropper to put out a water bucket, but that does have a 4 game tick delay and 2 game ticks from the observer. We also use a piston to push the slab out, and because of the delay here, the slab will be out before this combination puts the water bucket out. However, when we retract, we hold this for 8 game ticks so that the slab is still out when the water retracts back into the dispenser. On the other side, same repeater for a stable signal, but we're just going that straight into a dispenser. The only other thing to note is between the two we do need a block other than our stairs, and this is because we don't want to form a source block here, and leads or roots or a number of other blocks will achieve this. After that, you just have to put it all together. So the way I'd recommend building this is to just build your elevator shaft first. Remember, you have where you're falling, where you're going up, your stair blocks, and your wall blocks in the middle. We don't need to build the wall blocks all the way down because we don't need to signal down to the bottom floor. And we don't have to build our scaffolding all the way up because we don't need to signal to the top floor. However, you may as well dig out the space anyway, and the scaffolding does make a good, access tunnel while you build everything else. From there, it's the signaling mechanism I showed you before. This sits right up against the up column. And we just, on the bottom floor, need to make sure that we have that scaffolding arrangement where it slides enough so that this will be better support than it is originally. This bottom floor is also the top floor. Again, we don't have the scaffolding coming up because we don't need to signal up, but we do have the walls going down. But we have the same control mechanism right next to the up column. In the middle floors, we have to add our interpreting system. So, if you want to land on this floor, then you're going to take your signal strength from 2 blocks below on the scaffolding and 3 blocks below on the wall. So we just replace one of the solid blocks for the wall with an observer. This will then be observed into a solid block over here, and the wall observed into this block here, finding the same node block And then all we have to do is turn that signal around so that instead of running from the observer to the copper bulb directly, we're just going to a second observer to a solid block, which will then, I'll just sneak in here, run our copper bulb. From there, the signal, let me get out. From there, the signal is the same as before. This is, fly back up there, this is the same as I showed you before. 14 signal strength, same circuit. All we have to do is set the floor. Now, there is a little bit of a difference. So this is floor 1, and that's floor anything that's higher than the rest of these. But this is floor 3. And the reason it's 3 is even though it's the second signal floor, when we run this to page 2, it isn't going to send a 2 redstone full game tick length signal. It'll send 2 more than that. And that's because we need to make sure we get at least enough of a signal strength so that if we did pick floor 2, this copper bulb turns both on and off. So if you want floor 2, that's set to signal strength 3. And if you want floor 3, that's it to signal strength 4. Any page higher than any set floor will take you to the top. And likewise, any page set below any set floor will take you to the bottom. And that's pretty much it. That's how you build it. Everything sort of tucks in together, but you've seen how all the parts work, how they're built individually. When you're building it, I do suggest starting with the signal. There's a button here to make sure you don't accidentally power this dispenser from the signaling mechanism. Build the core first so you can go up and down and set your floors. In my world, I built most of the middle floors after the top and bottom floor. When you're coming over here, make sure you set that to be one higher than the floor you actually want. You can go even higher floors. I've just got a crafter here for ease of resetting, but you can use anything that can do a signal strength, a pot with items in it, or a compost, or whatever you happen to have spare. And you also need to have something to stop the water coming out of your tube here. So I'm just using a banner because you can write on them if you want to, and a sign on this side, and maybe a slab at the top and bottom to give yourself a little bit of extra room to come out when you land. We can demonstrate this by going, say, to the bottom floor, and then to one of the middle floors. So we'll go to floor 3. Because as you'll see, you usually shoot past a little bit with the bubbles, so having that little bit of extra height to come out helps. And that's basically it. Thank you for watching.